Breaking news, former CNN anchor Don Lemon was arrested by federal agents last night, not for inciting violence or leaking classified info, but for being present at a protest that he was covering as a journalist. Whether or not you like Don Lemon doesn't matter. This story is not about him. This is about whether or not reporting itself is becoming criminalized in this country. Lemon has been taken into federal custody, and the arrest stems from a January protest in St. Paul that we're watching right now, where local organizers started a demonstration during a church service where the head pastor was identified as an ICE agent. Federal officials have alleged that Lemon's presence crossed from journalism to participation, but Lemon and his legal team say the exact opposite. He was there documenting. He was not organizing. He was not leading chants. He was not interfering. He was doing what journalists do. He was recording the situation on the scene to show the rest of the country what was actually happening at this demonstration. And the Trump administration's Justice Department, this distinction is currently being blurred with many different journalists. And the blur is really the point. They want to be able to arrest anybody that they deem to be too disruptive to the federal government. Yes, the First Amendment should give you the right to protest your government's actions, but you can't do it too much. Don't be too disruptive to the government. Journalists get arrested all the time, but usually it's during mass arrests or when there are clear violations that have happened, like breaking curfew or restricted zones. What's different here is the legal theory that the Trump administration is trying to apply. The government isn't saying that Lemon ignored police orders. They're saying his presence itself was criminal. That is a huge shift because if simply being near a protest with a camera in your hand can be framed as conspiracy or participation, there are no journalists that are safe in covering political dissent. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem released this tweet immediately after the lead organizer was arrested. She said that Nakima Levy Armstrong played a key role in orchestrating church riots, and she's being charged with a federal crime under 18 USC 241. She says how religious freedom is a bedrock of the United States, and this organizer prevented her from doing so. Just take note of the photo. We can see how her demeanor is. She is not overly emotional. She is stoic. She's being taken, and she's comfortable being taken in. Now, the White House posted something completely different, and they have not deleted it. They AI edited a picture of her. They showed her to be sobbing and crying, arrested far left agitator Nakima Levy Armstrong for orchestrating church riots in Minnesota. This is the official White House account using AI doctored images to try to make the agitator look more de- devastated, I guess is the right term. Most organizers are okay being arrested. They are doing this in defiance of the government. They understand the risks that come with organizing against federal government policy. But she was not sobbing. She was not emotional. Kristi Noem posted the real photo. Look at the difference here. It is wild to see the Trump administration openly using misinformation to try to sway their audience into recognize like thinking they have a lot of power, that they're the big dogs, the big shots. The main story in all of this isn't even really about the arrests. It's about what doesn't happen next time and the chilling effect that this has from this being normalized. Publications might not send reporters to important events that need to be documented for history. Freelancers are backing away from volatile stories. Journalists are self censoring out of fear of repression. This is a huge effect. Historically, it's how free speech erodes without needing censorship laws. You don't ban reporting, you don't write legislation in, you make it dangerous. And you try to dissuade any person who wants to document things accurately and precisely from going out in the first place. Trump didn't invent this strategy to repress journalists. This has been something that's happened historically to people documenting important events. In the 1960s, during the civil rights era, most reporters were labeled agitators. They were arrested, beaten. Local officials argued that they were interfering, not actually reporting what was happening. In the Vietnam War, the Pentagon Papers didn't just expose lies, they triggered a full scale attempt to redefine journalism as a national security threat. COINTELPRO, the FBI surveilled and harassed journalists that covered Black liberation movements, labor organizing, anti war protests. The language has always been the same. Label political dissidents as terrorists or dangerous, blur the line between observer and journalist and those that are participating, and use law and order language to justify repression. That's exactly what's happening with Don Lemon, and it will continue to happen in the future if the Trump administration follows this again. Don Lemon's team released this statement. Don Lemon was taken into custody by federal agents last night in Los Angeles, where he was covering the Grammy Awards. Don has been a journalist for 30 years, and his constitutionally protected work in Minneapolis was no different than what he always has done. The First Amendment exists to protect journalists whose role it is to shine light on truth and hold those in power accountable. There is no more important time for people like Don to be doing this work. Instead of investigating the federal agents who killed two peaceful Minnesota protesters, the Trump Justice Department is devoting its time, attention, and resources to this arrest. And that is the real indictment of wrongdoing in this case. This unprecedented attack on the First Amendment and transparent attempt to distract attention from many crises facing this administration will not stand. Don will fight these charges vigorously and thoroughly in court. What does make this moment different than many historical examples, though, is the infrastructure that's in place. The US government has expanded surveillance tools, they have broad conspiracy statutes, and a media ecosystem primed to call all journalists enemies. We know Trump was famous for saying that the media is the enemy of the people. It is fake news. Anything that is criticizing me, criticizing my administration, or the actions of those that are within my administration is fake news. The Trump administration is using an anti Ku Klux Klan law to prosecute Minnesota activists for demonstrating against ICE at a St. Paul church. On Thursday, Attorney General Pam Bondi announced that the Department of Homeland Security and Federal Bureau of Investigation had arrested Chantil Allen, Nikema Levy Armstrong, and William Kelly for their alleged involvement in a January 18th anti-ICE demonstration. The three protesters were charged with conspiracy to deprive rights, a federal felony under Section 241, a Reconstruction era statute enacted to safeguard the rights of Black Americans to vote and engage in public life amid the KKK's racial violence. That is insane. To charge Black Americans who are organizing in support of their community members who are being terrorized by a domestic terrorist organization known as ICE, they are being charged with an anti Ku Klux Klan statute that was meant to protect them in the first place. Make that make sense for me. You don't have to like Don Lemon or watch cable news. You don't even have to agree with the protests to begin with. If you believe that the First Amendment is a foundational bedrock of a functioning democracy, you should be against journalism becoming criminalized. When power operates without witnesses, we know how that ends historically every single time. This is not about Don Lemon. This is about whether or not journalism exists, even when the story is inconvenient.